Hey everybody, it's Vanessa, the Crafty Gemini, and welcome to episode number 83, I believe, of WIP Wednesdays, where I get together here with y'all, I answer some pre-submitted questions, and I check out the chat so we can sometimes fit in a few more questions that are coming in. I'm flying solo today, that's why we have this shot, and there's no switching up of the angles, but hopefully it will still work for y'all since I'm going to be talking about a new product that we recently started carrying in our shop, which is the So Hungry Hippies soft vinyl. So let's make sure that y'all can see me and hear me since my daughter helped me do the microphone check. And I'm hoping that y'all can see me and hear me fine. All right. Hey, Maureen. She says, hello, everyone. Checking in from Texas. Awesome. Hey, Joan. Hi, Francois. Tuning in from Switzerland, I believe. Janelle from Illinois. Great. Hey, Marilyn. She says, yay, I remembered. Hi from Melbourne. Awesome. Hey, Della, tuning in from Southern California. Just let me know if y'all can see me and hear me. And apologies for those of you that maybe tune into the WIP Wednesday episodes on Facebook, because we usually go live on both the Crafty Gemini Facebook page and the Crafty Gemini YouTube channel. But since we're flying solo today, my producer is not here to do all the fancy tech stuff that he does. Great. Hey, Dana from snowy Minnesota. And So Diva 5691 is tuning in from Southern California. Awesome. Yes, y'all can see me and hear me. I know there's a little bit of a delay, so we should be good now. Hi, Nancy. Hey, Dr. Susie. Awesome. Okay, so I have a few things on my list here that I want to share with you about this soft vinyl because we did receive several questions since I started carrying it. The number one thing is we have restocked. We have it now, I believe, in 11 colors maybe. 10 or 11 colors if none of them are sold out. So different colorways. I don't have them all here because unfortunately we have sold out 3 times and I don't have all the colors to keep some for my stash just yet. So when things slow down, then I'll keep chunks of the different colorways for myself. You know, I'd rather get them out to y'all versus keeping every single color here. But I do have a lot, so I will still go through some of them. So this soft vinyl is amazing, and if you tuned in last week, you probably heard me say it. I will say it again. I actually like this better than cork fabric, and I'll talk a little bit about that and why today, okay? So here is a chunk. This is something I wanted to share with y'all. This, the way that we're selling it now, we had some of the colorways in the 1 yard wide, or excuse me, 1 yard in the length, okay? And then it's about 56 inches wide. So it is a big piece because it's also pricey. But for those of you that have ventured into cork fabric over the past, I would say 8 or 9 years, where it just like blew up and like every bag pattern designers and everybody was just cork, cork, cork all the way. This is actually less expensive than cork fabric, and I like it more for a couple of reasons, okay? We'll talk first about the width of it. This chunk here is 1/2 yard, and this is how we're selling it. Because, you know, it's kind of pricey, so not everybody wants to try out a yard of it, which is fine. So you can get a 1/2 yard, which is 18 inches this way, and then buy 56 inches this way. Do you see how this stops here? Well, the other half of this chunk I used to make what is now my everyday handbag. This might be a little too shiny for people for daily use, but I have been using this purse for over a week already, every single day, and I'm obsessed. I still love it. This pattern is my Sunday Tote bag, which was a pattern that I designed for my bag maker subscription box that we did last summer. So unless you were a part of that subscription box where we mailed off patterns and kits and stuff like that, then you probably haven't seen this one because it wasn't featured in a previous club per se. Okay, so we do sell the course now individually, so you can sign up for this bag project, and I'll show you. We do a cool zipper technique where, and I talked about this a little last week too, you can unzip it and it allows you to open the bag all the way, right? When we make a zippered pouch, which is really kind of what this is, right? Just like a bigger zippered pouch. When you open the pouch, usually the zipper goes from here to here, and so when you open it, you're limited to like, that's the opening space for you to get in there and put stuff in and out. Well, when we install the zipper like this, one, it doesn't go all the way to the end, so it's not held together here. If you don't make bags, this probably doesn't even make sense to you. It's like, what is the big deal? But if you make bags or you've made zippered pouches, you know what I'm talking about, where this bit here is restricted. You can't open it like this. So this is a big deal, you know, especially if you're going to put bigger things in there where you don't necessarily want to close up the zipper, but it's going to be taller. You'll still be able to fit more because you can keep this opened up. The same thing on the other side. It doesn't reach all the way to the end, and because the zipper goes past the edge of the bag, we're also able to open up the full width. So for a smaller purse, I think that comes in really, really handy. So again, this is called the Sunday Tote Bag pattern. It's a great beginner project, and you can see what I did with the soft vinyl here is that I actually quilted it. And I have a little sample. We're gonna make a little sample here together so I can share with you today my tips and tricks on how you can do it too, because it doesn't have to be just for a big bag like this. Imagine you made a small zippered pouch. You have a little bit of this fabric, maybe a chunk of foam scrap that you may have. You know, I use the Bosal Inner Form. It's the sew-in version. We carry this in our shop in packets that are 1/2 yard by 58 inches wide. So this stuff is easy to sew through. It compresses really nicely. It adds shape and body to bag projects or to any projects, but we mostly see it used in bags, but without adding the added weight. So this is what I placed this fabric on top of, and then I scored my lines and I stitched through it. So I think it gives such an, I mean, I could just be like, look how pretty, ta-da. The texture is just amazing, especially with the metallic finish that this soft vinyl has. You really get such a cool rainbow effect, huh, where the light hits it. So I'm kind of obsessed. This bag is super simple. You need fabric, typically quilting cotton fabrics. We use the soft vinyl for the exterior. Now this can be made with, oh, I don't have the other version here. We've been cleaning up my studio and I've put stuff in bins and took it out to the other shed for storage. But this can also be done just like this, but out of cotton fabric. So if you don't have the soft vinyl or you're not interested in this kind of, you know, shiny stuff with bling, you can do it with quilting cotton. You just quilt it to the foam and you can make the project as well, the Sunday tote bag, okay? The inside lining is just cotton fabric. We don't have any hardware, any fancy things. We use one 14-inch zipper, foam, and fabric. That's it. So it's a great beginner project. If you're a quilter that maybe wants to start dabbling in bags, I think it's a super, super fun project. Now you can see here how good the stitching looks. It also creates this really fun texture. And this has to do with the soft vinyl, the foam interfacing that's inside of it that's giving it that plush finish, but then the stitching compresses the foam. So you get this between the combination of the three, the stitching, the soft vinyl, and that foam, you get such a good texture. Can you imagine like a kid's backpack with the straps made like this? And look how it stays up. You can tell that they're not, you know, flimsy little straps. They're gonna hold up, okay? So anyways, that's called the Sunday tote bag. It's currently my everyday purse, my essentials, wallet is in here. All the handmade things with all the fun pops of color. All right. Thank you, Della. She says, I love your pretty quilted bag. Yes, Mary says butterflies on this would be amazing. It sure would. Speaking of butterflies, here's a little butterfly FPP block that I have done. So if you're not into making bigger projects, I just want to kind of walk you all through, and look at this. This little lotion thing popped out of my purse. I just want to show y'all maybe a couple different things that you can make with it. And we'll talk a little bit about other things that I've done. I'll stitch through it. I'll share with you the needle size, the stitch length, all that. So you'll be armed with all the little tips and tricks. So when you do order this and get it home, you'll know already, you know, how to use it and what you can do with this. Linda's asking, can you do this bag in cork? Absolutely. Vinyl, cork, and regular cotton fabric. You already know. If you can make the bag in cotton fabric and a vinyl, you can also do it in cork. In cork, I probably wouldn't quilt it, but just to have like a nice chunk of cork, especially if you have maybe some of those specialty corks that are like printed, you know, and they have those fun designs, that would look gorgeous. If you are planning to make the Sunday tote bag with a quilting cotton, this is another nice canvas to use up some of those like large scale florals or a large scale print that, you know, when we chop it up into little quilt blocks or patchwork pieces that we then put together for quilts, if it's a large design, we hate to cut them up because then you chop it up and you can't really make out what the design was, right? Well, when you have a full canvas like this to use it on the front of a bag, I really like to use large scale prints for that purpose as well. Yes, Windless Original says, I'm surprised how good it looks quilted, but it really looks, I'm telling you. So this is what I like to show. Look at the difference. Like, okay, you look at the fabric. If you saw it, you'd be like, oh, I mean, it's cool, you know. What would I really use it in? And then you see it and it's like, bam, okay, yes, yes. And these, in case anybody's wondering, this is called cross hatching, where you have repetitive intersecting lines just of stitching, right? So it's kind of like on a slight diagonal. Some people choose a specific angle, you know, 30 degrees, 45 degrees. I don't. Once I have the fabric laid on the foam, I just get my ruler and I just start doing lines. I don't care where they are, you know, just I do keep them in equal intervals. So the measurement for these are 1.5 inches apart. Keep in mind that the closer together you make your lines, the longer it's going to take you to quilt that little panel, okay? So add that into your creative time of like making the whole bag from start to finish. The more close together your lines are, the longer it's going to take just to get the quilting done. And the more thread it's going to take because you have more lines, right, closer together. And that can also affect the finished stiffness of the bag. The more stitching you have, the stiffer it will be also, okay? So keep that in mind. If you're wanting a really kind of like squishy bag, and this one's not that squishy, but it's still kind of pliable, you know, at 1.5 inches apart. If you did 2 inches apart, you'd have larger diamond-shaped spaces in here. You don't even have to do them on an angle. You can do the line straight up and down and go across like that and have like a checkered grid instead. There's so many ways to do stuff like this to quilt your panels without feeling like you have to do free motion quilting, right? We all know free motion quilting takes hundreds and thousands of hours of practice, and I would hate for you to waste, you know, like not be happy with your quilting if you did some free motion quilting on something like this, because this fabric, if you pull out the stitches, you can see where the needle went in, okay? So, you know, if you're not confident in your free motion skills, don't even bother. Just do some nice straight line quilting and you can still get a gorgeous effect. I'm obsessed. I mean, I literally, when I finished, I was like, oh no, we're switching purses right now. This is my new bag. And I used another one like that one that was made out of this fun tossed chickens fabric that I had that was navy blue, but this is, I mean, it's perfect. Yes, Windless Original says I can see using it for many things. Okay, so let's get into the little tips about working with the soft vinyl. So, quick thing, it is fabric backed. So one of the questions I get all the time is, can you machine embroider through it? Absolutely. So for those of you that make little pouches and cutesy kind of stuff that you like to add a little added embellishment of machine embroidery to, you can absolutely do that. Can you imagine this bag with like a monogram here? If those of you that sell at craft fairs, if you sell custom commissioned works, this is a whole nother level. People are going to freak out because they're going to be like, what kind of fabric is this? I've never seen it, right? Look at the colors. And this one is called, let me say that, this is called Deep Space. We were sold out of this. I've just restocked it, okay? So Deep Space is this color, which is the same as the one I used in my bag. I'll show you a couple of other colors. This is another gorgeous one. This one is called Pink Nebula, and it's the one that I used in these two pouches. Now, one thing that I wanted to mention, and I'm kind of popping up with these things that I wanted to mention off my list, but as I come up to them as well. One of the things, so I did say that you can machine embroider through it. It is fabric backed, okay? I remember when cork first came out that people were starting to find out about it, a lot of people wondered, can we do machine embroidery through cork, or is it going to perforate the cork and kind of split and break? But because the cork fabric is also fabric backed, you can do machine embroidery. I have a tutorial, I think I did like little key fobs and I embroidered names on them in the little wristlet part of the key fob, and the cork held up beautifully for that, okay? So if it's fabric backed, usually, you know, if it's not just like, if you're buying, now keep in mind, I have ordered some cheap cork before where I get it, it looks like cork on this side, but when you bend it, it starts flaking and creasing, okay? That's not the good stuff. I buy the good stuff from my friend Sarah from her website, and she's at sewsweetness.com. A lot of you that make bags are are very familiar with Sarah's cork. She carries, I mean, dozens, maybe 100 colors by now. And so this is the good stuff, okay? That comes from Portugal. It's they have like this whole process of how they take the sheets from the cork trees. It's fabric backed, so it's way more pliable, but it is also thicker, okay? And it's more expensive than this soft vinyl. So this stuff, another thing about it is that you can actually press it from the wrong side. You can hit it with an iron from the wrong side, okay? Which means the fabric side of it. So what does that mean if we can actually give this fabric some heat? Well, you'll be able to fuse it to interfacings, right? On this project, when I made this Sunday Tote, remember I said I quilted it to the Bosal inner form, which is the sew-in. So this is not fusible, okay? But the stitching, once you have a couple lines of stitching, it's just gonna hold it steady and in place, right? So we don't have to fuse. But this, where is it? Here. This pouch okay, has Bosal light fusible batting, which we carry in our shop, and it's my favorite lightweight fusible batting. Here's a little chunk of it. You can see it's pretty sheer. You can see my fingers through it. It has one scratchy side, which has the tiny little dots of adhesive, and that's the side that you place on the wrong side of your fabric to fuse, right? And so this is fused to the exterior panel to give this a little bit more puffiness of body, okay? And it's fused to the whole front panel. So the two exterior panels on this pouch have that fusible batting fused to it, okay? So you can do regular batting and quilt through it. You can do fusible batting, fuse it. You can do fusible fleece, fuse it. You can do cotton woven fusible interfacing like Bosal fashion fuse it, okay? So you're basically using something that's like a funner fabric, and it's just barely heavier than a quilting cotton. That's what I love about it. So if you have a basic sewing machine and you know that you've tried maybe some thicker fabrics, cork with foam, multiple layers, and your machine struggles with it, this is it right here. This, I mean, you'll be able, no walking foot, no nothing, okay? And we'll get into the stitching part of it in a second. But, so you can fuse stuff to it from the wrong side, remember. Now, I did go ahead, because I like to test all this stuff out too. I also press it from the pretty side with a piece of fabric on top. So if you have a Teflon sheet, a pressing sheet, anything that's going to serve as a buffer between the soft vinyl pretty side, okay, and the heat of your iron, just give it something in between, okay? Now, I have a super, super high-end, like commercial steam iron, and so I wanted to see, like, does it affect the fabric at all if I put it on the most cranked up heat and place it on it even with this pressing sheet on top of it? And I don't even, you could kind of see it though. The difference between these two. Do you see how this is like a little bit more dull and this one still has more sheen? This is with like the hottest temperature that I could give it, and it still didn't scorch it or damage it, but you can see that the sheen is just a little bit more dull, okay? So if you don't use the hottest heat from a super professional steam iron, and don't hold it there like I did to test, you'll be good, okay? Because this one I use my regular iron and still put a buffer on it, and I press from both sides, okay? So keep that in mind. But I would like to show the visual just so people feel a little bit more confident going into it and don't think like, oh, I'm going to totally ruin it, If you do hit it with the iron directly on here, you're going to ruin it. And you're probably going to ruin your iron when the metallic finish on this comes off because of the heat. So always remember to have a buffer in between or press from the back side, okay? All right. So again, this is for sale in our online shop. I'm going to set up my machine here because we're going to talk about needle, thread, stitch length, stitching, all that. So you can shop with us at CraftyGemini.com/shop. In the shop, just click on fabrics and you'll see all the colorways that we have listed there. You just select the size that you want from the drop-down menu. Most of them at this point are 1/2 yard by 56 inches, which actually I was showing y'all that one. And I mentioned that the other half of it I used to make that bag. Let me open up one of the full 1/2 yard so you can see that the width of this thing is about 56 inches. It's wide. So yeah, it's pricey. You're paying, a little under 20 bucks for a 1/2 yard, but do you see this? That's folded. So it's twice that, okay? This is a good bit. If you're making purses like my Sunday Totes, or you're making a lot of pouches, I mean, can you imagine how many you can get out of this? Look at all this. This is the purple, by the way. Super cute. I think we're sold out. Of this one. We have a cotton candy color, which is like a lighter version of that deep space one that I was just showing you. And you can see that it's backed with a lighter colored fabric. So it still has kind of that rainbow feel to it. You see the colors there? And that's called cotton candy, in case anybody's wondering. Okay. So CraftyGemini.com/shop, click on fabric. You'll see them all listed there, okay? Ooh, yes, I love the nebula. It is. It's so pretty, that pink nebula. It really is. Love it. I love them all. There's so many fun colors. There's a sea foam color too. That's like this light. Look at this. It has a teal backing, and it has like a minty undertone with kind of those rainbow vibes. I'm currently obsessed. I'm like, every time I see one, I'm like, ooh, what can I do with this one? What can I do with that one? This color here is the rose gold, I'm pretty sure. I can more easily tell when the gold is right next to it, but they're pretty similar. One just has kind of like pink undertones, and I'm pretty sure it's this one. This is the silver, And y'all, I know some of you, this might be a little too blingy for you, a little bit too much pop. So I am happy to announce that we also carry it in just plain old black. Isn't that cool? It's still like a metallic, it has the screen looks like it went blank, huh? Black on black. It has like a, I don't know, like it's has a, I don't even know how to describe it because it's not like a metallic finish like the others, but it has that sheen to it. This is so chic. So one of the other things I wanted to mention is that because this fabric drapes so well, I could totally see this being used for like all those different cons that people go to, like Comic-Con and all those things where you like make costumes and dress up as the different things. Halloween costumes, can you imagine? This sews just like anything else and it drapes beautifully. So it's not like those fake stiffy kind of metallic fabrics that you sometimes, you know, end up using for costumes and stuff. Okay. So let me go up here, make sure that I'm going to cover these questions because here we go. So Susan's asking, does it fray or can you leave the edges raw? Great. So let me show you my little baggie of scraps. This stuff is pricey, y'all. So you know, every little bit that I'm trimming off, I'm throwing it right into this baggie because this, I was like, since it does not fray, look at this. Just random strips, you know, when I was cleaning it off, straightening it out. How cute would this be if you make cards, thank you cards, gifts? Can you imagine wrapping up a little gift with this as the ribbon? Oh, I'm using every bit of this. Y'all don't even know. I'm like, for the price? No, I'm saving every bit. But look, it doesn't fray. Okay, if you do pull on it, you see how it stretches, then you kind of end up like, it stretches the fabric, that's the backing, beyond the metallic finish. So I don't recommend stretching it like that along the crosswise grain because then it ruins it. Let me show you. You see how like if I pull it, it's like I'm stretching the fabric along the crosswise grain from the finish on top. So I don't recommend that unless you're going for that kind of a look for some type of specific project, okay? But if you're using it in its regular form, okay, look at that. You can do a strip of this, top stitch it onto something, anything. Look what I did here. I made a little zipper pouch wristlet, super simple. And this is my multicolor floral. We still have this fabric in the shop and it's on sale. I think it's like $8 a yard. We still have yardage left of this. So if you're interested in this super cute floral, check it out. Again, it's going to be under fabrics on our website at craftygemini.com/shop. Little zippered pouch, and look at the strap. Instead of making it out of fabric, I made it out of the soft vinyl. Now this is a color that I still need to stock in the site. It's not on there yet, but it's what she's calling the new version of the seafoam. So if you recall, the seafoam that I just shared earlier has more of a lighter minty color. This is like a slightly darker version of this. So I have some on order, and when I get it, I'll add it, but I was trying it out here. So look at this wristlet, how it stays. It's not like, you know, if you make it out of fabric or you have to interface it, then you're using more interfacing just to make the strap have a little bit of body. This is just a strip of that soft vinyl. Now, when I made it, I used a strip that I had, okay, from a sample chunk. I didn't need the whole size, so I installed the piece that I needed to make it big enough for a wristlet. How cute. And I had a little leftover chunk. I ain't throwing this away. I'm gonna keep it because look how cute. A little side loop installed on the side of another, like a boxier zipper pouch, like one of those dot bags for your bathroom supplies and stuff like that when you're traveling. How cute would that be on the end of that? Okay, any little keychain thing that you can do, that you can like make or add to it. I can even make a purse and install this in a side seam so that I have somewhere to clip my keys to. I mean, it's a little chunk, you know, 3.5 inches long, but I can use it. So I'm just gonna throw it in my little bag here. So, you know, yes, it's pricey, but if you're willing to give it a try, I think you can totally get a ton out of it, okay? It folds. I used a double-sided wash away wonder tape to hold it in place. Anything. I mean, anything that I would do with a regular kind of thicker fabric or cotton fabric, I can do with this stuff, okay? So put that in there. Let's get stitching. So which piece am I going to sacrifice for y'all? Hold on. I think I had a smaller chunk here. I'm like, a piece that I'm not going to use that much, but I'm going to use all of it. Okay, let's go with silver. Why not? Maybe not because you won't see it. I have gray thread on there. So let's do this rose gold. Sure, why not? All right, so the rose gold, making sure there's no selvage on here. I'm going to cut a chunk off. Grab my ruler. So yes, you can leave the edges raw to answer that question. Whoop, let me go back up here. Oh, Nancy says, Vanessa, I wish I had your ideas. Well, that's what I'm here for. As long as you keep watching, Nancy, I'm going to keep hooking you up with all the random ideas that I get. Somebody had actually emailed me and asked, what of my previous bag projects, and I'm just going to eyeball this. What of my previous bag projects would be good to use this in? And I couldn't help but laugh because I had done that last week. I pulled up like my full course library archive and I was like, oh, that would look amazing. Oh, that would be so good. Oh, that would be so cute. Yeah, this one would totally work. And I couldn't come up with one that wouldn't work. So here's one that I have plans of making out of the soft vinyl. This is not my pattern, but this is by Sew Demented. This is the Sew Together bag. Now, this is a project that I do have an online video course for. It's a ton of videos, super step-by-step, because I know, for something like this that's so involved, a lot of people that maybe had purchased the pattern before really struggled to make it just from the text instructions. And so I do offer a standalone video course, but you need to have the pattern in order to sign up for that course because I don't give you the pattern since it's not mine. But how amazing would this thing look? Made out of the soft vinyl, quilted for this exterior. Hello, here's the visual, okay? And I would, for something smaller, I would quilt the lines more close together, okay? So that proportionally it still kind of fits the project. So I would make the lines closer together, even like 1 inch, okay? Quilt lines. Imagine that for here. And then in a contrasting one, like maybe the black, like say I did deep space for the quilted exterior and did the black soft vinyl for this part. Oh, that thing would look so good. So good. And then, you can keep your inside pockets made out of cotton fabric, which is fine. But I could use a pop of color by selecting the zipper colors that I use for the inside. There's so many ideas, y'all. And again, this is a project where I think I use the Bozal light fusible batting for the exterior because I know from the past that if you use like a fusible fleece, sometimes it's too bulky and it just makes the whole project super chunky and thick, okay? So knowing that this is a more lightweight soft vinyl, it would be absolutely perfect for this, okay? So again, this is the Sew Together bag by Sew Demented. It's a paper pattern. We sell the paper pattern as well, and we sell a standalone video course for people who have the pattern, or you can buy the pattern separate from us and walk you step by step. But that, when I pulled this out yesterday, we were organizing, I was like, oh, I gotta make that in soft vinyl. The story of my life. Okay. Let's see. Oh my gosh, Winless Original says I want a dress from that. Wouldn't that be amazing? Something drapey. I mean, it's not gonna drape like a chiffon or nothing, but still, it won't be like just stiff. All right. So that one would look super cute. Any of the bags, really. I mean, I have all those little project bags. If you were in my mini bag clubs last year, then you already know. Little things like this. This is a little pencil pouch. That would look so cute. And you know that the interfacing that we used for this was Durafuse because it is a fusible, non-woven, crisp, fusible interfacing. You could fuse it to the soft vinyl and make the little pencil pouch. And it just looks so different, instead of just using cotton fabric, which has, I mean, it's cute. It's a fun print, but that matte look, when you want that bling bling, you can do that. This is another one of my projects that we use for like passports and a couple of cards in a zippered pouch here. This again is requires lightweight fabrics, lightweight interfacing that we use just one. And so something like this with a slim silhouette would also still be super good to make up out of that soft vinyl. So any of the little pouch projects that we did in the mini bag clubs of last year. And for those of you that are seeing all these projects and are wondering like, where did all this come from? I've never seen this. You'll want to make sure to sign up for my email newsletter list because that's where we send out everything that I do. All my bag clubs, when we release them with an early bird sale price, when we do sales, kits, coupon codes, anything that we do like that, everybody on my email newsletter list are the first to find out. Okay. Dolores is asking, did anyone say how much we need for the tote? Half a yard, and you're going to have plenty left over because you're going to use less than the half yard this way and way less than the width of the fabric this way. okay? But if you have a half yard, you know, you'll have enough to do like the straps and all that kind of stuff with, and you'll still have plenty left over. Especially because remember I said that the soft vinyl is 56 inches wide. So it's way wider than a typical 40 to 45 inch width that we get on quilting cottons, okay? So when I say a half yard of quilting cotton, and you're still gonna have leftover. So you know if that's the case, if you use the soft vinyl, you're gonna have even more leftover because you have that much more width in the fabric, okay? Great, so hopefully that helps. And now let me stop running my mouth and finally show you how this cuts and sews. I think I showed you how it cuts because I cut this, right? So I have cut this with all 3 sizes of my rotary cutters. So don't feel like it needs to be something heavy duty. I know some of y'all, you know, are limited in your supplies and you might just have like the 28mm rotary cutter. You can cut it just as well. Okay, easy peasy. Obviously the bigger the wheel, the faster you're gonna end up making your cuts. You can do that. I most often, as y'all have seen, use the 45mm. Works perfectly fine for that as well, okay? No raw edges, I mean like the raw edges don't fray. I just remember I said don't stretch it along the crosswise grain. So lengthwise, you see that it won't even stretch, okay? Crosswise is where, even if I stretch it this way, it doesn't really happen. So what I showed you earlier is from a strip, right? Because you have 2 raw edges and they're you know, what's in between is stretching. So just avoid stretching it if you've cut narrow strips, because you can see like this is, I'm pulling. It's just fine, okay? Now when you get it and it's folded up, don't worry about the creases because again, you can place it face down on your ironing board and just give it a light press from the back. Easy peasy, okay? So it cuts super easily. Now let's see how it sews. And on my sewing machine, you know that this machine is not a heavy duty machine. It's not marketed as that. It's not labeled as that at all, but it is my Juki LB5020. We still have some of these in stock. Y'all know we have sold a ton of these machines since I started using them maybe what, 3 years ago, I think beginning of COVID when I started going live weekly. And it's not marketed or advertised as heavy duty, but man, it's a workhorse. I don't care what nobody says. A lot of you out there that have this machine have used it as your secondary machine, your travel machine, or even as an upgrade to maybe a more base model machine, and you know what it can do. Y'all have seen me. I've sewn bags, I've quilted quilts on here, we've made garments, I've sewn with stretch knits, faux leather, cork fabric, and now soft vinyl. It can do everything. Okay, so I'm gonna fold this in half, just like this, because you know usually when we're sewing through 2 layers. Now if you notice, I'm sewing it with the pretty side of the vinyl facing up at me and down the bottom. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to show you that I haven't done anything else to my machine. I'm just going to start sewing. The needle in here is a size 80-12 universal. That's it, okay? Now if you're adding 3 layers of foam and multiple instances, you know, where different seams intersect and stuff like that, then you probably want to go up to a 90-14 denim needle or a 90-14 top stitch. But the fabric itself just needs a universal 80-12. And most of us have that. That's like a base, you know, middle of the line sewing machine needle, okay? Stitch length, let's try a couple. So let me see, my machine defaults to, when I turn it on and turn it back off, it defaults to a 2.2mm length. Let's leave it at that. So, couple things. You saw I didn't change my presser foot. There is no rip. Do you see how perfect that is? I mean, partly it's the fabric, but you know, it's really the machine. I'm just saying, this machine is a workhorse. But you saw how easily it sewed through there. I barely had to hold the fabric. I didn't have to push it or tug on it from the back, okay? And that's with a 2.2mm stitch length. That's super tiny. When you're sewing bulk, okay, 2 layers of a vinyl like that, that's practically unheard of. You know that usually you have to lengthen the stitch length, go up in the sewing machine needle, or put on a walking foot, or most often when we're working with things like cork fabric, vinyls, whether it's clear vinyl or one of these kind of faux leathery vinyls, usually you either need to change out to a Teflon foot because you know the vinyls tend to be a little bit tacky and so they stick to the bottom of your presser foot, or worse, they'll stick to the metal or the plastic on the sides of the base here, on the base of the machine. No problems. It's not tacky to the touch, it's smooth, okay? So I didn't have to change anything out. It's literally like sewing a little bit thicker than cotton fabric, and there's no you know, it doesn't need, it's not high maintenance, like it doesn't need any specialty stuff. So now let's go long to like a 4.5 stitch length. I mean, I don't even have to hold it. It just feeds through smooth, you know, easy. And here, of course, and now it's starting to pull it because I just let it go and didn't have it pinned or anything. But anyway, you can see where the stitching is. But the cool thing about this is that depending on the thread color that you use, it can work two ways. You play with a neutral. I mean, I'm using a gray thread. Can y'all see that thread? So this is a gray thread, and this is the Wonderfill all-purpose polyester, the designer thread that we carry in our shop. The spool has like 1,000 meters, I want to say, on it, I believe. And it's less than $4. This is what I use for all my little pouches and bag making stuff, okay? So anyway, that's great, and this is a rose gold, but you can't see the color, okay? Let me give you a close-up. You can't see the color of the thread. You just see the texture. That's why it looks so good when we quilt it, because I used that exact same color thread when I did this one. I used a gray thread on here. I mean, y'all, you can't go. I'm getting tired of just like, I don't know what else to say about it. It's a dream, okay? You don't see the thread color. Imagine, I think it was Tamra. Did Tamra tell me earlier this week that she likes to use variegated threads on it? So if you have those threads that change colors throughout the spool and you've always wondered, like, what would I use this for? That would be amazing to use, say, on something like the silver, where it's just like one color across and you have a funky variegated thread used for the quilting lines, the stitching lines. That would look amazing. Also on the black, that would give it a pop just in the stitching plus the texture of the quilting. I mean, there's so many ideas. So many ideas, okay? Oh yes, Windless Original says that's the same color that's in my Juki right now. Yep, I love it. I love a good gray because it goes well with light colored fabrics and with medium fabrics. Even on some dark ones, you can get away with it not popping up as much, okay? Okay. Julie's asking if we ship to the UK. We do. Just make sure, like when you order it, when you select your country, it'll show the shipping cost. If it's like, oh, crazy, ridiculous amount, just email us and then we can send you an invoice directly for the actual price, because the automated system doesn't always get everything right. You know, it's based on the weights of the different products that you've added into your cart. So sometimes it's not super accurate. So just email the customer service team at BEA, like that, BEA at craftygemini.com, and just tell them, hey, I'm trying to order, but you know, the shipping cost is like $100-something. Doesn't sound about right, you know. So we can enter your address and check it out and then send you an invoice, okay? All right. Yes, Jackie says this would work for the Kendall snap pouch. Absolutely. Now that would make it a super like lightweight Kendall snap pouch, because you know that one is just one layer of that faux leather that we carry in our shop, which is a little bit different. So maybe I should show y'all that too, because I know a lot of y'all have collected that faux leather over the years. Let me grab a sheet just so I can show you for comparison. Where is that stack? Here it is, under all my stuff. So we have these faux leather sheets in the shop. They're not yardage like the soft vinyl, but we sell these ones, okay? And I have designed several different little projects that allow you to use up just like one sheet of this faux leather. So you see how it's just thicker? Like it just, if I let it go, it flops back. So it still has a little bit of drape. This stuff is still softer than cork fabric, but it's not as drapey as this. I mean, look at this. It's tricky to kind of explain, but if you felt this before, like this has like a gummier finish, like it's just a little bit heavier. You see how it just, the weight of it makes it fall flat? And this, look, it just stays there. It doesn't go and flip that way. Like it just stays wherever you want it to go. Look. Okay? So hopefully that shows you a little bit more about how pliable it is. Like it's not stiff at all. I mean, this whole big chunk, I can turn it into nothing, like a little ball in my palm. Okay? And then you see if you have wrinkles like that, that's kind of a cool look though. But again, you could press it from the wrong side. Okay? All right. So we said universal size 80-12 needle, easy peasy. Stitch length doesn't really matter. I use mine at 2.2 millimeters. And usually you're going to be sewing a construction seam between 2 and 2.5 millimeter stitch length. Works fine. I don't need a Teflon foot. I don't need a walking foot. I didn't have to change anything on my machine. This is not sticky. It didn't stick to the presser foot or the machine. Okay? That right there is enough to like, let me buy a half yard at least just to try it out, right? So that's that. Hey, Jamie. That's okay. You're tuning in a little late. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so let me look at my list real quick. I showed you some projects. I showed you how to cut and sew it. We talked about the needle. I mentioned that there's no specialty feet. Here's one thing that I will mention. With that little, oh my gosh, I have so much stuff here. That little pouch that I did, and I told y'all that I used it here for the strap of the wristlet. You know, when we make this double fold, it's like double fold bias. When we make straps on bags and stuff like that, usually we have a width of the fabric, pretend. We fold it in half, right? We crease it here with an iron. So we have a crease going down the middle. Then we bring the long edge in. We bring the other long edge in, okay? And then we close it like this so you have no raw edges, right? Well, for something like this, you can't do that, right? You can't go like this and press it with the iron, okay? You can't open it up and press it again like we would do with a cotton thing. So what I do is I use my wash away wonder tape, and we carry this in our shop. Wash away wonder tape. This is a 1/4 inch wide wash away wonder tape, and it basically has paper on one side and it's tacky on the other. So I would put it down like this. You put the sticky side down on whatever the edge is, okay? You would go the whole length of the bit that you need, right? I scratch it on with my nail first, then I kind of lift it and peel off the paper backing like this. So you see now it's a double-sided sticky tape. And then I use that to say if that was the center line there, I would go like this and just press it. So that I don't have to go in and try to, add heat from the iron or be topping it off with like the cotton fabric or a pressing mat. And so you don't even have to go the full length if you don't want to waste your whole roll, but you could do a chunk there, a chunk there, a chunk there, a chunk there. And as you fold it back and tack it down, you know that it's going to hold. And so you do the same thing here, okay? And then when you get to this point, don't use anymore. Just put it like that and grab a couple of your little clips and bam, bam. Take it over to the sewing machine like that, and then I would just stitch it. You know how we do, top stitch it. For my straps on the Sunday Tote, I like to do 3 lines. So I'll go about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch in from one side, same thing from the other edge, and then I go down the middle, and I ride my presser foot in between the 2 outer stitch lines, and it gives me one right smack dab in the center, so that I end up with 3 lines of stitching, and that's how I prefer to make my straps, okay? So they end up coming out like with a more rounded look versus like a choppy, when they're like stiff handles, like really like that, like pointy. I don't like that. I like mine to be like round and smooth. So that's a tip, because if you only do the 2 outer lines, it's going to be pointy and your straps are going to look stiff. So add an extra line of stitching or 2. Okay, so then you would go like that. So those are some tips for working with it so that you don't constantly have to be adding a pressing sheet to hit it with the iron, okay? Oh, Eunice says, thank you for showing how you get that paper off the tape. I struggle with that, and I make it look easy. It also has to do with the years and years that I have been doing that. But a couple tips are that I scratch it on with my nail so it sticks further down, okay? And then when I go to peel it off, I don't scrape it flat. I bend it almost, like I bend this back so that the sticky part is stuck to the fabric and that paper on the edge usually already starts to kind of lift up on its own. If it's like a really fresh new roll and it doesn't want to separate, then what I do, Eunice, is I grab a pin, okay, and I will poke at it and lift a little like this at the paper. And usually it will poke through the paper and it will allow me to lift up that first bit so I can finish pulling it off. Okay. Hey, Zena. She says, oh, so glad you're showing how to sew with the soft vinyl today. It's like there's really nothing to even show because it's a dream, but I know when people hear vinyl, they think, oh no, specialty steps and tools, but it's not. Especially with this one, it's a joke. I mean, y'all have seen it. You can do anything you want with this thing pretty much, including add snaps. So I made this little sample for y'all so you can see. I installed the male end and the female end of a snap to just fold it up 2 layers of this stuff, okay? Usually you're not really going to be installing snaps through just 1 layer of the vinyl, and you're going to back it with something, because usually when you're installing a snap, it's going through the lining fabric, maybe some interfacing in between. So I wanted to show you at the bare minimum in terms of layers, just 2 layers, Okay, this was just a piece of that Pink Nebula soft vinyl fabric. I folded it and I installed the snap. Now let me show you. When you install a snap, you know, sometimes we're a little bit hesitant of like, is it gonna perforate the fabric where I make the hole? Is it gonna, you know, do something funky like start to fray from underneath the snap? All those concerns that we as crafters have, you know, usually why? Because you've done it on something and you didn't know it was gonna happen. So now you question every decision you ever make. So through here, if I fold this in half, and I'm just doing that so that there's 2 layers and I want to show you again from the pretty side. If I take my awl and I just poke a hole right here, and I kind of tug on it a little because that really shows me like what's going to happen, okay? If I open this up, can you see that hole? It's literally perfect. Literally, like there's nothing fraying. You can't even see it. I mean, it's like, so as far as the fabric goes, it's fabric back to the point where, I mean, that's not going nowhere. So I am confident with making a hole in this fabric and not feeling like, oh no. Have you ever poked a hole like for installing snaps through some like lower quality quilting cottons? And when you like force that all through there, you see it like run off the side of the opening and you're like, oh no. You know, how far is that run going to go in my project and now ruin it? Well, you can see that that's not the case here. Okay, easy peasy. If I put this back, say we take the one end and just reinsert it through the holes. And you can see it. I mean, the fabric will tell you a lot of what it's going to do because look at this. So that's the end cap, and it's pushed through both of the holes that I made with the awl in the fabric. And you can see there's nothing going on to the outside. Like it's not, that hole's not going nowhere. It's literally just there enough, like big enough to hold that end cap, okay? Then we would put whatever we're gonna put here. Say this male end one, put it right there on top, get my little pliers, and this is a cam snap kit, y'all. Center it, push down, and there it is installed. And usually you're going to have more body built into this when you install your snap. Like I said, a lining fabric, some type of interfacing or foam or batting or something. But at the bare minimum, this is how I like to check it at least, is if I'm only installing a snap, say through 2 layers of a cotton fabric, ooh, that snap is going to be getting a lot of wear and tear. I do not want to run the risk of ripping the fabric, okay, with that snap. But you can see that even with the bare minimum of 2 layers of the soft vinyl, it's not going nowhere. Okay? And Anne is asking if I'm going to be restocking the Wonderful thread soon. I am. It's actually, they've shipped it from Canada, so it should be on the way to us, okay? So keep an eye on that. If we have the waitlist button on the bottom of a page for any product in our online shop, if you want to be added to the waitlist, just add your email there. And that way, basically when we go in and we restock it, it will send an instant email to whoever's on that waitlist letting you know, hey, they've restocked this item. Okay, so that's the best way. But when we restock it, we'll also share it, you know, on Facebook and via email to our email list. Okay, so if you're wondering about installing snaps on this, I mean, if you think like me, shortcuts, I know you're already thinking it don't fray and I can attach snaps. Y'all know what kind of time savers those 2 things are. Okay, super fun. Okay. Yes, Jamie's asking, will I be restocking the vinyl? Some colors are sold out. Yes. So some colors are sold out, but we just keep restocking and restocking. So we'll keep restocking. Yeah. All right. So Donna's asking, can you use this for binding? So it depends on what type of binding you're asking. So one of the reasons I tried making this little wristlet out of it was to see how does this act in a really narrow space and 4 layers, right? Because I just showed y'all it was like a double folded strip. Okay. Now for binding, if it's something that's designed to go around a more curvier area, I would for sure cut it along the crosswise grain like you would with regular fabric anyway. And I would just make sure that I'm not cutting it in a way that it's too short for the length that it needs to span so that you're not tugging on it. Because remember, we just showed that. Narrow strips, you don't want to tug on a crosswise grain. But if it's cut to the same size where you don't have to stretch and tug on it, then yeah, you could totally use it. I don't see why not, okay? The only thing is, depending on the project, just make sure that you know the added bulk if you are cutting, say, if you're thinking about a quilt binding. The quilt binding usually gets a lot of wear and tear though. So just be careful with the, with the finish. I don't really want, scratching on this. It's going to affect the finish on the fabric. But if it's, say, a quilt that's going to be a wall hanging, a more decorative piece or something that's not just going to get tore up, basically, I don't see why, why it wouldn't be an issue at all. So for the binding, say we cut a 2.5-inch strip and you folded it in half. It's going to be a little bit thick, right? Because we would sew this to the edge of the quilt and then fold this over and then fold this back over. So you're going to have quite a bit. One option, depending on the project, again, for a traditional quilter, you're probably not going to do something like this, but I could absolutely see, say for my mini quilts that I hang on my wall, I could see myself cutting a narrow strip of this and stitching it instead of 2 layers, just 1. To where, let me see if I can simulate what I'm talking about here. Say this is my quilt, ta-da, quilt top, and I want to attach binding, okay? I could cut, and I'm guesstimating here, I don't even know what the width of this is, but I would, instead of folding it in half to sew here, okay? Let's just go ahead and cut it to 1 inch. See what I mean? What fabric was I going to sacrifice for y'all? Just hacking away at it, but it's okay because I have my scrap bag and I'm going to use all of these bits for little gifts, for cards and things like that. So say you cut, what was this? This is like 1 1/4. And if this is my quilt, instead of doing like a double folded binding, because the edges don't fray, what if I stitched it down like this? Okay? And then I folded this back. And then I wrapped it to the wrong side this way. Okay? So basically, I mean, it would have to be wider than this. But you could also bind like this. If you have a raw edge of a project, a wallet pocket or something, who says you can't just drape it over and top stitch? That's it, right? You could just leave it like that and you're going to minimize the amount of bulk. And I'll put a couple clips for a better visual. But y'all know what I'm trying to get at here. You could just bind your raw edges like that. Just work out your math. How much do you want overlap on each side? And you could just top stitch this. And that would be a super cute finish. Can you imagine? I'm thinking, whew, the top edge of a tote bag, bags, wallets, like pouches. So, so good. And you would just, make sure that you have enough on both sides so that when you do your top stitching, you catch it on the other side. And that's it. So you could play around with it different ways. I would just be careful of like binding it like regular quilt binding because quilting cotton is, again, thinner than this. So you don't want to quadruple up the layers. So just, give yourself a little sample piece and see what, depending on what project you plan to use it on. Okay. All right. Let's see. Yeah, so Patty suggested a great tip. Use your scraps of the soft vinyl also. You can use them as the extra layer for inside the snaps. So if you've installed maybe some magnetic snaps and things like that before, you know that usually we'll cut out like a little piece of foam or an extra little bit of the fusible fleece just to back it, especially on those metal prongs that magnetic snaps and buttons have because it rubs against the fabric in that area. So you give yourself an added layer of something there to help be a buffer in between. So that's another use for the little scraps of this fabric as well. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let me make sure I've covered all the stuff before I log off here. Oh, you can iron on the wrong side. I want to show you that part because I know some people not going to believe me. Let me take off this tape from here. But, let me grab my wool, my little wool mat here, since my bigger one is going to take up the whole table space. Okay, so now look at what I'm thinking. I'm like, where's the one that I crumpled up into a little? So do you remember how wrinkled it was? Look how it looks now, and that's just after sitting for a few minutes while I was running my mouth. It just kind of settles down too. So let me kickstart my iron and just warm it up here since it turned itself off. Yes, Maureen, thank you. She says, hi, everyone. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up below. If you're learning something from this video, you're getting some good tips or project ideas, definitely go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to my channel, watching us here on YouTube, and you're interested in all types of crafting tutorials, definitely make sure to subscribe because I have like over 700 free video tutorials here on my channel. Okay, so It's warm-ish. All right. So you would just press it from the fabric side. Okay. And so from the fabric side, don't go super, super hot either. Okay. Like if you have a really heavy duty iron, you could scorch it. But most home irons are not going to be enough to damage this. But anyway, from the back, you can go like that. If you're fusing this to something, this is a chunk of that light fusible batting. Now, it's going to also depend on the product that you're using, because each manufacturer on their specific fusible products will tell you in the packaging, like, use water, put a damp cloth over top of it. You can use dry heat, all that kind of stuff. Oh, my nose is itchy. So it's just going to depend. In this case, this Bosal light fusible batting, which we carry in our shop, is a polyester-based batting. So I'm kind of in a situation here, right? Because I cannot iron from this side. Big no-no. And I cannot iron from this side because this is polyester. So I cannot hit this batting with the heat of my iron. Okay? So this is where that pressing mat or pressing sheet comes in. And by pressing sheet, I'm just using a piece of cotton fabric. Just a buffer, something in between. Now, I know for my Bosal light fusible batting, I like to use, first, let's double check and make sure that I put the scratchy side, the adhesive side to the back of the fabric. It's correctly oriented. And I like to make or attach it, like by fusing it, with some steam. So we have a well here and we have hard water, so I don't really put water in my irons these days. I just mist it with water, and then I will come in with the heat of my dry iron, and that combination obviously is going to create steam. So then, oh, Trish, that's awesome. Trish says, I accidentally ran across this site, and oh my goodness, am I ever so grateful that I did. Well, I'm so glad to hear it. Welcome. All right. Renee's asking me a question. She says, kind of off topic, but do you ever use a Cricut to cut out patterns? So I have a Cricut, but I don't use it to cut out patterns because a lot of my stuff, especially, when you're in quilting, you need a lot of repetitive cuts, right? So I'm not going to sit there. I mean, I have the 12 by 24 mats. It's just too slow for me, yo. Have you seen me with a rotary cutter? I'd be flying. And actually, it's funny because the Cricut and all these kind of cutting machines that people like to use, I think it's mostly because people don't like to cut. And surprisingly enough, that is my favorite part of the entire quilt making process, is using my rotary cutter and rulers and cutting. That's my favorite part. So I don't really find a use for it. It's not a part of the quilt making process that I don't like, so I don't even bother with it. All right, so there you go. Saw that? I peeled it off. Some little bits kind of get stuck, but that's all right. And ta-da! So you see how super easy also to use fusible products, interfacing, stabilizers, whatever y'all need to use for your project with the soft vinyl. And so now it's fun to see, if you do a sample like this, look at the difference. This side has nothing. So this is where you can really also see the difference between how drapey it is. Look at that. And then look at this side. If I hold it by here, it's kind of like boom. It's a little heavier, right? But because look at that. Ooh, look how that curve stays like that. Now, because this is a light fusible batting, this is, like I said, my favorite. Imagine if you use one of those like really puffy fusible fleeces, it's going to be a lot stiffer. So the more interfacings you use and projects you make, you'll kind of get a better feel for how fabrics feel with that specific fusible product. But look at that. Oh, gorgeous. Another option would be to use something like this, the Bosal light fusible batting, fuse it to a whole chunk, and then go in and do your quilt lines. Okay? So depending on, the thickness of that batting or interface, look how thin it is though. That Bosal light fusible batting. It's one of my faves. For lightweight pouches and bags and projects, I love it. So yeah. So that's how, you see how this side is like so bloop. And this one has a little bit more body, but still very pliable. Look at that. Okay? So just another little visual for y'all. So you see that the iron is set to the cotton setting, and that T-fall really warms up. They don't sell it anymore. I don't think they make that one anymore. People always ask me, but they don't make that one anymore. And I fuse it to the wrong side. So if you end up in a situation like I did where you can't fuse from this side and you're using a synthetic product stabilizer or fusible batting, do that. Just grab a piece of cotton fabric and have it be your buffer in between and keep it moving. You'll keep going to the next step of making your project, okay? All right. Jamie says, oh, I love that fabric. Are you talking about this one, girl? This was like a random fat quarter I had in my stash from years ago. I don't have any more of this stuff. Okay. Kathleen is asking, hey Vanessa, that foam backing that you're showing now, is that used in the Sunday bag? So this light fusible batting is not it. So here's I keep all my scraps in the bin right here. This is the light fusible batting. And what I used on the bag is this foam in our form, IN-R-form. If you go onto our site and just type in the search box that you find on the top right, okay, there's like a little, it's a magnifying glass icon on the top right of my website. And in there, you click on it and type in Bosal, B-O-S-A-L, and just type in foam. And the product will pop right up for you. It's 18 inches by 58 inches, and it's this in a big chunk, okay? And this is what I used on my Sunday Tote, okay? You could make it with the light fusible batting. It's just gonna be more lightweight. So I usually kind of differentiate between the two based on what I plan to put inside of the project. If it's gonna be a lot of stuff or it's gonna be potentially heavy that I want it to have a little bit more body to hold up to the weight, then I'll go with the foam. If it's like a smaller pouch, you know, like some type of like a little fanny pack or a crossbody bag just big enough for my keys, card, and phone, then I will use most often the light fusible batting because it's a small pouch. There's no way I can really put 20 pounds of stuff in it, right? So I'll go with a little bit more lightweight. So it's just picking stuff based on function and also proportion and size of the project, all right? So hopefully that helps y'all a little bit. Okay. And so for anybody tuning in, we're just sharing some tips on how to work and sew with the soft vinyl that we're carrying in our online shop. We had it, I was gonna say have, but we had it before I went live today in about 10 or 11 different colors. If there's any of the colors that are sold out, we will be restocking as soon as possible. You can add yourself to the wait list under the product page, but we talked about sewing snaps to it. As you can see from all the zippered pouches that I have made here, it's easy to sew zippers to as well. Nice, smooth. You can make a combination of soft vinyl and cotton fabrics. That looks really cute. These are foundation paper piece blocks that we're working on in my quilt club. I used it to make the strap here of this wristlet pouch. Super cute. Little gifts, craft fairs, that kind of stuff would work out great. And then I'm just going to walk y'all through a couple of the colors just to show you the visual. Whew, I got a mess up in this table, y'all. Before I log off, since it's already 3 o'clock and my son has a soccer game at 5. And I still have a ton of chores to do out here on the farms. Okay, deep space. This is this. I know it looks different. The quilting really just makes it sing. So imagine any of the other colors that you're considering buying. Just know if you do some quilting through it, especially to foam, which is puffier, you know, it's going to give you some really great texture. Look at that. Y'all can put your little handmade tags that I've seen y'all have and put your little brand name on here. People are going to be asking people how much, where'd they get that bag. Look at that. That's so fancy. Okay, so deep space is this colorway, and the back of it, I think it comes with 2 different color backings, but either way, the colors are like this on the front. Pink Nebula, gorgeous, lovely. The ones I used on these pouches, Pink Nebula. Okay. Rose Gold. Cotton Candy, Silva, Purple, let me grab that Seafoam, Black, what else do I have tucked away under here? This is Seafoam, Black. We have a Crimson Red, which is like a reddish magenta-y color, and it's a solid like the black, like it's all that reddish magenta color. There's a Royal Blue, that's like a rich, rich blue, same way like that. There's a Pixie Dust one. I don't think I have that one here. It's like, oh yes, I do. Hold on. Pixie Dust. I think we only had a few of these, but we're restocking this one. I think she even sent me some back-ordered pieces with my next order, but Pixie Dust. So this is white, like a really light shimmery white with that kind of rainbow finish to it too. This would look bomb quilted. Can you imagine? With a variegated thread? Oh, that would look wild. So good. So yeah, those are just some of the soft vinyl colors that we have. Check us out at craftygemini.com/shop and just click on fabric and you can see all the fabrics that we have, okay? Whatever's in stock there, whatever's sold out, just stay tuned. Make sure you sign up for my email newsletter so we can let you know when it's back in stock. And Renee's asking, what is the size? Oh, I can't remember what you asked me earlier, Renee. The size. Not sure. But the size of the fabrics themselves here, we're selling them in half-yard cut. So 18 inches by 56 inches wide. So you see that from here to here, 18 inches, okay? And then here, this is doubled up. If we open the whole thing up, this whole big thing is 56 inches, just about, with the selvages there, okay? So it's a nice big chunk. I mean, for under 20 bucks, you can make a lot of projects with it, especially for those of you that make stuff to sell or just want to give some really special kind of one-of-a-kind gifts because you can't find this stuff everywhere either, okay? So hopefully y'all learned something. You got some good tips for your different projects, especially if you already have some soft vinyl in your stash. Take it out, work with it. The stuff is amazing. All right. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I need to walk over there and shut this whole thing off since I'm flying solo today. But I appreciate everybody tuning in today. And thank you again for supporting our little family business here for those of you that are ordering and keep coming back week after week to see what new stuff we have to share with you. All right. Thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.